Snezhnaya is right around the corner, and I am so ready for whatever the next big region of Genshin Impact has in store for me. But while we all sit back and wait, I had to take a moment to reflect on how awesome the last year has been for Genshin and the Song of the Welcome Moon patches. So today, we aren't talking lore, we aren't speculating on anything. Instead, this video will be my pure, unfiltered opinion on the Nod Krai releases as I attempt to rank every single one of the Lunar patches from worst to best. And let me tell you, that is a hard thing to do, because overall, I've been very pleased with Genshin over the past year. So I had to use a more methodical approach to my rankings. I looked at the story content released, whether that was a character quest or Archon quest, as well as the playable characters that dropped, and the quality of the events inclusive of both gameplay and story. Plus, how good the new areas were to explore, and if no new region was released, I looked at other aspects of the game that were updated. Think along the likes of quality of life updates or Miliastra Wonderland. Just to reiterate, ranking these patches was hard because they all had a lot of great parts, but when making a tier list, someone has to be the bottom of the list. And the Lunar versions that ended up toward the bottom don't mean I hated them, it's just an indication that by comparison, it didn't quite hit the same highs that some of the other patches did. With all of that said, let's get started with number 8 on my list. Luna 2, An Elegy for Faded Moonlight, comes in at the bottom of my rankings. Now before you dive into the comments yelling, Miliastra Wonderland hater, I promise that game mode is not the reason this takes last place, even though I know that for a lot of you out there, that might be the case. From a story perspective, Luna 2 was right up there for me. And if this tier list was only focusing on the story content, this wouldn't have been at the bottom. I think the Archon quest did a great job of starting to use more dynamic storytelling techniques to keep the player engaged and feel the weight of the story, particularly in that rear sequence. Dainsleif made an appearance, Arlecchino was out here being a baddie, we got more Sinaloa, it was all kind of a big deal. But outside of the Archon quests, the events weren't outstanding. Yes, we got to go back to Sumeru, and there was some interesting stuff with Layla going on, but outside of remembering those high-level details, I remember almost nothing about the flagship event, which pretty much tells me everything I need to know about the main happenings in the event story. As far as characters go, Nefa was a good addition to the game. I pulled her and her weapon. I enjoyed her for a while, but like most of the main DPS characters, the sparkle and shine of someone new fell away rather quickly, at least for me. And yes, now we have to mention Miliastra Wonderland. I like the concept. I like what it is trying to be, and I think it's super cool that it came with a bit of Hexen Circle lore. But as a player who loves to explore and engage with the story, I can only be so enticed by the features of Miliastra. I think there are some cool creations in there, and I have taken some time every now and then to play them. And I think some people will be having a blast with it, which is awesome, but naturally it means that on my list, I rated it a lot lower than other features that came along across the Lunar patch cycle, which landed this one in the bottom spot. Moving on to my number 7, we have the OG Nod Krai patch, Luna 1, A Dance of Snowy Tides and Hoarfrost Groves. The patch that kicked off the Song of the Welcome Moon had a lot to love. The Archon quests came out swinging with a visit from our twin, Ruria's introduction, Sandrone's introduction, but for me personally, it also contained a lot of Ino content. Overall, the story did a good job of balancing setup for an amazing year of content, as well as tying up some loose threads while still offering lots of intrigue in the moments that actually happened. The events themselves, on the other hand, were not particularly memorable. That said, we got a great weapon for Lauma out of it, so it wasn't all bad. And I know this content came out almost a year ago, so maybe it's unfair for me to dismiss it so quickly, but the best part of it was just getting more Ino screen time, and on that note, we should talk about the characters that got released. From a design perspective, I absolutely adore all 3 of the characters that dropped in this patch. Lauma is so pretty and helped enable some cool new mechanics. Flynn's was really neat as well, but I had to save my primos for everyone that was still to come. But of course, I know The Bestest Girl Ever was also released, a free 4-star that enabled a lot of cool interactions with Luna team comps. Plus, her design was just super neat. Mad shout out to her English VO, Annabelle Brooks, who just nailed that voice. Anytime she hits me with that "Inefa," I start crying. I just love her so much. And in terms of Lauma and Flynn's gameplay design, they absolutely served their purpose at the start of the patch cycle, but I don't feel like they'll be very enduring investments in the long run. As for the areas that got added, this was our first journey in Nod Krai with some excellent quality of life tweaks for completionists like myself with the refined exploration compass. The 3 areas introduced all had a super distinct feel with unique puzzles, and the design of Nasha Town really helped sell the idea that this city was a mishmash of cultures from across Teyvat, so there was a lot to like about the world exploration itself. And it also saw the introduction of the To Temper Thyself and Journey Far, which I was a fan of for the most part. I play every day, so getting bonus constellations for a selection of my premium characters felt amazing. But sometimes I wanted to clear out my side quest list, overspending resin in a day to get my completion tick. But that was a small price to pay for the reward that came at the end, in my opinion. So yeah, story was a good setup for what was to come, with unremarkable events, and characters that were hot in the moment have pretty much dropped Luna 1 version down quite a bit on my list. Coming in at number 6, funnily enough, is Luna 6, Augured Homecoming. This one is potentially controversial if you're an explorer like me, because this patch introduced us to the Temple of Space, an absolute icon that I have limited critiques of. But as I said, we have to look at each version holistically, and when we do that, this patch does start to falter quite a lot. I'll start with the main focus of the patch, which surrounded Linnea, a character that we didn't have much of a deep connection to prior to her introduction. Now, I am a big fan of her design and character. Lumi is super cute, and mechanically, she is a Geo powerhouse. But because of that, her team comps can be somewhat limited, and as the only character released in the patch, despite my own feelings on her cuteness, I had to mark this patch down in that regard. Now, the Trade Expo event. That was a bit of fun. It was super silly thinking about the fact that Teyvat has this big legal black market going on that allowed them to just bring out a lot of random characters, and I just thought that was pretty great. And the event mechanics were pretty sick. But we cannot ignore that stupid walking video event. Now, it takes a lot to really bother me in Genshin, but man, this one was so bad, it brought my whole feeling on the patch down. What a waste of time that was. Like, genuinely, who was that appealing to? No shade if you liked it, and if you did, please tell me why in the comments, because I need to understand who it was made for. Anyway, coming back to Linnea, this patch gave us her story quest, which dug deeper into the Fae lore that we'll start getting to explore further as we travel to Snezhnaya. And while it delivered the return of our Saurian companion, it was a good story. Not bad, not great, just good. But of course, the main draw card of this patch was the release of Dawnman Port and the Temple of Space. Holy lore drop. The environment was crazy cool with super unique puzzle mechanics, and the storyline itself was engaging and heartfelt. My only criticism is that we now live in a time where world quests can be voiced, and I would have loved to see that approach in the temple and its wonderful cast of characters. So my final thoughts on Luna 6, it was a patch with a great event that was heavily carried by its new area release, but it came alongside a mixed bag of events and a playable character that just didn't have the same star power as others in the Luna versions. Alrighty, making our way into the middle range now. Coming in at number 5, it's Luna 7, Truth Amongst the Pages of Purana. Wow, oh wow, there was a lot to love in this patch, and I must admit, I was surprised it ended up this low on the list. But once again, it proves just how high the quality of content has been throughout the Song of the Welkin Moon, and unfortunately, this patch had one glaring issue that dropped its place in my rankings. First up, what a patch name! We finally got the Sumeru title from the Travail trailer, and it was worth the wait. A delicious, long-awaited finale to Sumeru's storyline while tying up the Dottore plot and introducing us to another Harbinger. It was incredible, but not as incredible as Genshin finally giving us a playable Hexen Circle character with Nicole's release. Coming back to the story for a moment, we also got the Phantasmal Pals flagship event, which gave us a deep insight into the character of Prune as she hung out with the little Hexen Circle witches and learned about the power of friendship. It was beautiful. It was everything a flagship event should be. A bit silly, not too long, and neat enough gameplay such as legally distinct subway surfers. My main complaint is that the event story wasn't permanent, and it felt like it provided a lot of interesting context, not just for Prune, but the nature of the Hexen Circle as well, which feels a shame for folks who missed it, given that permanent events have become increasingly more utilized in Genshin. With all of that said, the main thing that let this banger of a patch down was Lowen. I am so sorry to all the Lowen stans, but he just felt so out of place, and his story quest was weak. It didn't include any cutscenes. Like, what did Lowen do to you, Hoyo? Like, I recently played Snezhnaya's story quest, and she got 2, which I'm not complaining about. Her story was so sad and really well done, but poor bro over here can't even get 1? Just feels kind of bad, man. Especially since he's a cryo character too, and he's about to get forgotten once we hit the cryo region really soon. So yeah, I hate to be a hater, but poor Lowen really brought the patch down a few notches, which has landed Luna 7 in the number 5 spot. In another funny coincidence, my number 4 spot goes to Luna 4, A Traveler on a Winter's Night. This patch only just beat out Luna 7 for the 4th place in the rankings. Luna 4 gave us Columbina in all her playable glory, as the story let us give it to Dottore and bring our girl back home. From a story perspective, it gave us a lot of amazing moments that did a great job of wrapping up the Nod Krai arc, with our Harbinger friends coming together, Snezhnaya making her sacrifice, and going to the moon with Columbina. All of that while still leaving us with a hint of curiosity, as our true moon finish screen popped up twice with a little glitch. But Nod Krai wasn't our only focus. We got to return to Leywa for another Lantern Rite festival, this time centered around the moon envoy, Zabai. Shout out to the Lantern Rite quest making fun of the long-running joke that the people of Tibet have never really seen a horse when Zabai points out how bad the statue looks. What a queen. Plus, we finally got new regions in Nod Krai, albeit only 2, which were pretty fast to enjoy and clear. That said, the Reed Miller finale quest that came bundled with the area was pretty neat, but overall, I was kind of hoping for a little bit more from the exploration in this patch. Coming back to characters, they're a bit of a star in Luna 4. Columbina was obviously the main push character of the Song of the Welkin Moon cycle, so she enabled a lot of teams and provided a big buff across the board to teams that previously used Ino to enable Luna reactions. Plus, Zabai and Alua introduced Luna Crystallize, which saw Geo become a hot choice once again, so that was a nice addition. As usual, the event mechanics in Lantern Rite was super cool, and I was a big fan of the Moonlit Patrol exercise event as well. So really, it was just the exploration that didn't do much to break the mold that kept this patch out of the top 3. We are on to our podium placements now, so coming in at number 3, we have Luna 5, Homeward He Who Caught the Wind. I have little negative feedback on this version, which will become obvious as I try to justify my final rankings, so stay with me here. Luna 5 saw Varka's welcome home, and I think it was such a beautiful way to bring Genshin players home to Mondstadt as well. For full context here, I only started playing Genshin in 2023 during 3.7, so I haven't even been waiting for these moments as long as you day 1 players have. But man, it just hit different seeing him come home to his fellow knights and citizens. Speaking of Varka, I love his playstyle. Screw the meta. That dual-wielding Claymore Daddy is hella fun to play. I do need to be honest and admit that I got his R2 weapon in 110 pull, so my account was blessed by Barbados, but still, my feelings stand. I think his kit is a great addition to the game, and I really rate his team comp. But putting that aside, if this ranking was based on events alone, then Luna 5 would have taken the top spot on the list. The event being a welcome home event recapping the story of the Traveler in Mondstadt for the Knights of Favonius, while reminding us as players how it felt when we first stepped foot into VAT. That was special. And yes, I cried. Oh my god, and we got the name drop of Kleiner, you know, Klee's dad. Plus, completing the event gave us a weapon skin, and honestly, about dang time. Also, I was obsessed with the Tavern Drink event. It blended gameplay and story in a really great way, which made it so enjoyable to work through. And we got a tower defense type minigame. I'm a sucker for those. So overall, this was just a banger of a patch across the board for me. So how on earth could anything top that for my top 2? Well, coming in for the second place title is Luna 3. A Nocturne of the Far North. This was really hard to rank above the high praise I had for Luna 5, but Moon Prayer Night was simply exceptional. And even though I do have critiques of Luna 3, the story and character buffs deliver something that earned it that silver medal. So let's start with the good. The Archon quests were exceptional. As I already said, Moon Prayer Night was on another level. It let us just sit with the Nod Krai cast for a moment, enjoying a night of fun and friendship from Columbina's perspective, as we saw a world not in peril for one delightful evening. I laughed a lot, I cried, and I remember it so clearly, which is the mark of a great quest story, as Columbina owned her name for the first time. Then, of course, Dottore came and took it all away from us, and the emotion that evoked was unforgettable. But I cannot just look at the story alone, because we also got character buffs with a lore reason in the form of Witcher's homework. My main complaint about this is that we can only do the story part if we have the specific character at level. So I haven't gotten to experience Venti story content, which sucks a lot. However, we did get playable Durin, a super versatile character that fits on a big range of teams with a delightful character story, and funnily, I didn't even mind the daily nature of it. As for the events, the gameplay itself was enjoyable, even if the story wrapper of a running event with Varessa seemed super out of place and really random. And if you're thinking, Sass, you basically said Luna 5 was perfect, yet you put it below Luna 3, which you have critique of. Let me tell you, I had to re-review my top 3 a number of times with different variables and math to see if I was happy with where I landed. So at this stage, I have to stick to my guns because the math don't lie. Speaking of, if you've been counting down each patch, you already know who's taken out the top spot. So let's talk about it. Finishing off my tier list in the number 1 spot is our current patch, Luna 8, Sunny Summer Fontinalia. I suspect this is not the top podium place that you were expecting going into this, and I'll admit I was also a bit surprised, but as I said, I have to look at a patch as a whole, and across the board, it delivered just enough to climb its way to the top of the pile. Firstly, I'll talk about the event story. What a welcome back for Snezhnaya. Getting to see more of her past and how she needed to grapple with the emotion and joy that comes with friendship and loss was just so beautiful. Let alone the moment she reunited with her BFF Columbina. I was literally crying as I was typing this script. That's how good it got me. Seeing more of those Harbinger tea parties, just also, it was so cute and such a necessary thing to explore right before we head to the home of the Fatui. As for the event gameplay that wrapped this story, I am clearly in the minority here, but I really liked what they did with the underwater exploration. I was genuinely surprised that folks online were as mad as they were, and I can see why there were some negative feelings about it, but I thought it was a pretty cool way to expand on an old mechanic. Something to note, I am not comparing this event to previous summer patches, just the other Nod Krai patches. Moving along, we also got playable Snezhnaya bringing with her the stellar reactions, and I think she's a super solid DPS unit to wrap up our time in Nod Krai. Because with that, we also got more character buffs, which brought Yai Miko back into the spotlight, as well as the little diva that is Chi-Chi coming back in a big way. That's hard to ignore the value that that type of content brings to this patch. And of course, we have the moon. I cannot fault the exploration in this area. If you haven't played it yet, please go and do so, because it is a brilliant testament to how far Genshin has come in the last little while. It was just so much fun to explore, and it had a voiced world quest. What a gift that was, and they used it. We got that Aether and Lumine VO at the end of it. Everything about it was just a treat for players that love exploration and lore, so naturally this got big points from me. So to summarize, a great character story, an amazing new area, awesome character buffs, and some great event gameplay landed this one in my number 1 spot. And with that, you now have my review and ranking of every single patch from the Song of the Welkin Moon versions in Genshin Impact. Let me tell you, it has been very fun to put my review hat back on and think about what worked and what didn't during the last year of Genshin, and I imagine those of you watching definitely have your own opinions on my final tier list, so let me hear them in the comments. Do you agree with me? What would you rank as the best patch from Nod Krai? But that's probably enough from me today. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for hearing my ranting and raving. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to drop a sub, like, and a comment so that I can keep making cool videos like this in the future. Anyways, I'm gonna go crawl back into my honkai hole as I think long and hard about Nihilux's identity. So if that's something you also care about, keep an eye out on the channel over the coming weeks. As always, I'm SassQueenAmy. Thank you so much for watching.